What is going on, everyone? My name is Jared Haas, and welcome back into another edition of NASCAR Mailbox. This weekend, we're going to take a look back at the action at the championship races at Phoenix Raceway. And now, this first question comes from Alexander Neddy's Heim 40. They ask, can Joey Logano match Jimmie Johnson's 7 titles? Now, Logano, under this championship format, is already at 3 championships at the age of 34. And if you're conspiracist even year Joey Logano believer, it can be likely that Logano can get his 7 championships under this format before he hits about mid 40s. So can it be done? Yes. And I think the important thing to note is that similarly to Jimmie Johnson, Joey Logano was able to exploit the system of how to get there in the championship four, win that first race in the round of 8, coast those 2 weeks, and then bring your A game, your rest up, prepared. You have your cars prepped up for Phoenix, and you're good to go. And guess what? Who was right there, taking advantage of that? It was Joey Logano. So I think understanding this, that Logano may have not is not putting up those flashy numbers. Yeah, I think he's the driver with the least amount of wins with 3 championships, even though his career is ongoing. But he understands how to play by the rules that NASCAR set up to determine the champion, which has definitely caused some outrage. If there's the championship format changes, I don't think Logano gets to 7. I don't even know if he gets another championship outside this format, but Logano and Penske have perfected this format and they're very unstoppable with this. So we will see if this championship format can change. What this leads into my next question. And now this next question comes from Kevin Honeycutt 9691. They ask, why does NASCAR choose ratings over legitimacy? I'm going to tweak that a little bit word of ratings into entertainment. Now, one of the big things that with this TV partnerships um that was before you had the front end stuff of Fox and NBC on the back end. And you had those championships where some of them were barn burners, some of them were just snooze fest, and some of them were, in between. And NASCAR's trying to sell mainly to the back half of NBC saying, hey, this we can still provide entertaining races even within the back half of the season. Because if you look before the implementation of the chase, where of all your big events, it's basically be Labor Day and before. Right before football started, you had Darlington, you had the Bristol, they built up Charlotte, they Daytona. Those were all done spring, summertime, right before the fall leaves hit the ground. And understanding this is trying to build up that excitement of making the playoffs, those 10 races, count more to the championship than what happened in the first 26 races. To get into that round of 10, those 26 races matter. But more the biggest concern where I see where I think fans are understanding this is if that's the only event that matters, that one race at Phoenix, what matters with all these other races that come in? You prime examples, the Coca-Cola 600. If you had regular season championship points where you accumulated 36 races, Kyle Larson doesn't make the Coca-Cola 600. He loses out those points. And that would have been critical for a season-long chase. Now with this playoffs type of structure, you can say, hey, I can skip this race. I'm fine. That isn't for the bigger cause of things. You're not like, I'm missing out on something. You just see, oh, Christopher Bell won. I can go to the next race. That's what's kind of spiraled into. They're like, not interested. I'll go to the playoffs. And playoffs have produced some exciting things. There's been sometimes the best drivers come out, but we've seen the chaos of what happens and what happens when you have a champion that's a driver that played by the rules that NASCAR's provided, but fans are upset by the rules that were implemented. And but the frustrating part is they don't want the champion to be wrapped up right before Phoenix, for example, the final race, because NASCAR's implemented a lot of changes in Phoenix. I understand this is this way. If the best driver, if we're going to award the best driver, what they really exceeded, why are we going to penalize them if they say, "Oh, you won the championship before then"? That should be, we should proclaim that and be happy. Like this driver was so dang good of everyone else, they were able to clinch, and that really hasn't happened that often in the previous system before the playoffs. I think it's happened a handful, four, five, six times the championship's been wrapped up the race before. It happened a little bit more in like the Busch series, for example, when you had the Bushwhackers come in, like Kevin Harvick, he wrapped it up really early, and Carl Edwards as well. But the competition in the Cup Series has been tighter than ever. I mean, it's definitely been a big back and forth. But it's definitely that chase to try to get those fans back. And it's just sad to see this as, they're trying to cater with TV because the numbers have just kept declining over the years. The crazy stat is the 2009 Daytona 500 qualifying, not the race, qualifying actually had more views than the championship race this past weekend. And TV networks noticed that. And when you have like TV networks, they're hovering around $3 to $4 million, views. They're going, that's cancelable territory, and that's why we've seen more of a shift with Fox and NBC putting a lot of those NASCAR races into their cable networks, which gives them more um, content for those channels, but it's not that big stage that NASCAR is looking for. So it's the chase for the entertainment, and unfortunately, we've just been running around, and a lot of people are wanting something that isn't a championship format, that wants a bigger sample size to say, okay, this is clearly the best driver. Well, if you look back at the season, you're going to say, okay, Bell did well, Larson did well, Elliott was really consistent. You didn't go, nah, Joey Logano was the best driver that year. But history is going to show that this 20, 30 years down the road that Joey Logano was the determined champion of this race. So understandably, I get the frustration. NASCAR's trying to be legitimate as possible. And like I said, they played by the rules that they set up, but the rules, they can change, and hopefully, like I said, it can change for the better. Changes are not going to happen suddenly with all these TV networks that they have going on. That would have to wait until next off season. So we'll see if some changes can get implemented, but it's really tough when you have that system kind of show that a driver with an average finish of 17th, one of the worst of the playoff drivers, is our series champion and in the face of NASCAR. Definitely frustrating for the fans, except for the Joey Logano fans, but understandably, it showed the flaw in the system, kind of like how Matt Crafton in 2019 showed the flaw that you can win a championship without winning a race. As always, thank you very much to the fans that watch us week in and week out. We can't do it without your support right here. Like and subscribe. That really helps get the content out to you guys. And until next time, as always, make sure to have a great race weekend.
Alex Gins for FrontStretch.com. Come back for more great racing content, and if you like us, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.